ring if you're ready to care. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only WETOODEEP. Turn it up loud, feel the power in your seed. This is slapping meat, yes, slapping meat. From suplex dreams to championship gold, stories untold and action so bold. The match shakes fury and fire within. We're breaking it down, let the podcast begin. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only WETOODEEP. Turn it up loud, feel the power in your seed. This is slapping meat, yes, slapping meat. Takes and debates flying through the air. Turnbuckles pounding with passion and flair. Grab your earbuds, it's a front row ride. Step into the chaos where we collide. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only WETOODEEP. Turn up loud, feel the power in your seed. This is slapping meat, yes, slapping meat. Slapping meat.
What is good, everybody? It is your boy, WETOODEEP, and we are back with another episode of the Slappin' Meat Wrestling Podcast. And today we got a lot to talk about, so I'm gonna spare you all the boring introductions. Y'all know what to do. If you're new here, like, share, subscribe, whether it's on YouTube or on the audio. If you're on audio, leave us a review on the service that you use. If you're on YouTube, comment on the video, as that is the way to tell YouTube, hey, I like this, others will like this, share this around. But with that, we got a lot to talk about on this episode, so let's dive right on in with our opening thoughts of the night. And we're going to start with what might be one of the hottest social media things going on in wrestling right now, and that is the Raja Jackson situation, right? Now, when I first heard about this, I honestly didn't really care much about it, right? I had an initial opinion, and I was like, yeah, we're not talking about this. We're not going to give this time. But I do think it does deserve a little bit of time, especially since conversation in our Discord community started going on about this. I do want to, take the time and discuss my thoughts and my opinions on this particular situation. And for those who are listening and are like, well, what are you talking about, WETOODEEP? Who is Raja Jackson and why should we care about him? Raja Jackson is the son of MMA legend Quentin Rampage Jackson, and which should tell you enough about, like, Rampage Jackson was an absolute menace to society in the world of fighting, right? And Raja, from my understanding, is trained in that same world. How I'm going to talk about this, though, I'm going to break down what I've heard, what may be known, and then I'll give my opinion, right? If I say anything that is necessarily wrong, I'm giving you the information that I have heard. I have zero idea what actually happened in this situation, just going off of what I have heard, right? So what I have heard was there was an initial plan that this started out as a work situation, right? Where Raja was going to jump the barricade, get involved in this match, no matter what happened, right? What ended up happening was before the show, the performers were out of the out in the parking lot or something, right? And they looked like they were drinking, right? And this guy, was it Psycho Stu or Sicko Stu or something like that, right? Came up, and to me it looked like he was playing his character, right? And trying to initiate maybe a segment that could lead into, Raja, why he would interfere in the match, right? And it looked like he was working, and he took a bottle and smashed it over Raja's head. And Raja didn't sell it. Now, for anyone who knows anything about wrestling, when you sell in a segment, you're essentially saying go fuck yourself, right? Like your work isn't important. And so that irritated Stu, from my understanding, but things sort of calmed down. He cooled down. He apologized. It's on tape. He apologized. Raja said, "No, we cool." Right? So we get to the match. Now, Raja's live streaming this whole show. And he's streaming, and he's going off. And he's listening. He's letting the chat egg him on. And basically showing on camera him premeditating this attack on this wrestler. So and we get to the point where Raja gets into the ring, interferes, picks him up, slams him, and proceeds to go Lex Luthor, A1, A1, A1. If you ever watched the new Superman movie, you know what I'm talking about, right? Proceeds to just beat the living dog shit out of this man. 22 punches, I believe, is what the official number is. Eventually, they get him off of him. They get him out of the ring. And that's the situation where we have right now. We have a world, and we always have this world. This is the culture that we live in. The culture that we live in immediately goes to, well, who's to blame for this situation? I don't want to issue blame right now. I do think this is a complicated situation. So let's get the uncomplicated part out of the way. I don't know the actual status of this wrestler who got the absolute dog shit beat out of him, right? I feel so bad for this dude. From my understanding, he's alive, but he might be in critical condition, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, if there's new information that I haven't seen. Whatever happens to this man, whether he survives, he lives, or if he does eventually pass away and succumb to the injuries, whatever the case is, charges need to be filed. What had happened here was premeditated, not part of the show, attempted murder. That's what this was. So, let's talk about... I don't think we have to necessarily talk about, is Raja guilty? I think his stream, all the details that are coming out, 100% prove that Raja Jackson is guilty. One then has to wonder, are there going to be any legal repercussions to Knox Pro Wrestling or anything else going on in this situation, right? So Knox Pro, if you don't know, was part of the WWE ID thing, no longer a part of it because of this. Run by Rikishi. I'm 100% certain Rikishi's like the head booker, the guy who owns the promotion. And so the question that could come down is Rikishi, is the promotion going to be held liable for what happened? Because here's my question, right? My question is this. How do you bring in this guy, Raja Jackson, knowing he's not a trained wrestler? Tell him he can go and get his he can go get some in the ring, not practice what's going to happen, not go over, not have someone work with him on how to pull punches. How are you going to put this guy in whose only mode he knows? Rampage Jackson, his father, was on a podcast several years ago, right, where he put to the world that Raja sucker punched him, about knocked him out, and so this is the dude who doesn't even have two cares to not hit his dad in an argument or whatever was going on in that situation, right? This is a man who obviously doesn't understand the concept of pro wrestling. He doesn't understand how to work, right? So my question is why do promoters constantly feel the need to bring in non-workers to work their show? I've never heard of Raja Jackson a day in my life outside of knowing who his father was, but even then I don't know who he is. Right? The guy's 25 years old. Has he even been in an actual MMA fight? That's what I'm looking up. What's his record? Looks like he's 1-1 from what I'm seeing. But I don't know if that's true or not. Either way, it doesn't even matter. He's a trained MMA fighter. He should not be in the ring without having the knowledge and understanding on how to work a pro wrestling program. And so that is where my question lies: is why did this promotion think that bringing this guy who's probably had 2 or 3 MMA fights at best, why not bring in Quentin if you wanted a big name to come and do something here? Because this is an issue. I don't have a lot to say about the situation because I think it's cut and dry what happened here. With all the facts that are coming out and his live stream and everything, it's pretty cut and dry what happened here. This was premeditated that he was going to attack this dude, right? And yeah, I don't think there's any justification for that. But I always go back to, why do this? As a promoter, as a promotion, why do this? Was there any benefit to allowing him to be here? And that is the question I think we need to ask. And so that's how I'll end that segment, right? So we're going to go from there and we're going to turn into a segment right here, right? So jump back a couple days to last Thursday. Junkyard James and them. No, I lied. It was last Saturday. Last Saturday, James did his Junkyard James from the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. He did his weekly Saturday episode by himself that he titled The Mone Effect. And was this giant, episode on just parading Mercedes Mone. Excuse me. And I had some issues with what he said, and a lot of this stemmed from a conversation that was held in the Discord. And so because I was in part of this and it was in the community, I definitely want to discuss this and where my thoughts are, right? I think he completely misses the heart of the point that was being made against Mercedes Mone holding 9 championships. So let's talk about the real Mone effect, the real issue with Mercedes Mone. And that issue isn't necessarily that she runs the indie scene. That's not the problem, right? Because that's sort of what his argument sort of tailored along, was Mercedes Mone running the indie scene brings eyes to the indie promotions. And guess what? I would actually agree with him. She is a draw. No one's arguing that. Again, you're missing the point. No one's saying Mercedes Mone can't work any of these indie shows. What we're saying is that Mercedes Mone shouldn't work the indie shows and take their championships from them. Right? So, she has 9 of them. One of them, I think, is the Owen Hart, which doesn't necessarily count because you can't defend that. So, technically, she has 8 championships, from my understanding. One of them's the TBS, and she defends that a lot. She defends the Rev Pro one every now and then, right? But I know she has one from a company in Italy, one in Poland, one in Scotland, one in Austria, right? That and most of those, the Poland, Italy, and Scotland one, she has won within the last 30 days, right? Now, granted that most companies run one show every 30 days or something around there, one show a month. I'm not going to critique those championships, right? The one she won in Poland at the end of July, they're hosting a show on Saturday. I highly doubt she'll be a part of it, right? I highly doubt she'll be a part of it, but if she is, we'll see. But I want to talk about the one she's held in Austria. This is the belt that she's held for about 80 days. She won that belt about 80 days ago. That's 2.5 months ago. Almost going on 3 months. In those that 2.75 months, those 80 days that she's held this title, she has not had one title defense in those 80 days. That's a problem. Right? That is a problem. So the issue isn't, oh, well, you guys are saying she can't run the indies and her being on the indies. No. We're saying she can run the indies. Just don't win the title. Right? Because this argument of, well, she's the biggest name on the indies, so getting her to come to your show puts an... No, you're right. That's an accurate argument. But none of these big names, like, so for example, speaking to James, you're going to a show this Sunday that's going to have Jeff Jarrett, Matt Cardona, Hammerstone, and EC3 on the card. In some way, shape, or form. And they may win their matches, but none of their matches are title matches. Why is Matt Cardona and EC3 and Hammerstone and Jeff Jarrett, why are they on the card? They're on the card specifically to get viewers into the high school gym to watch the actual performers who come month to month. In this particular AML promotion that James is going to, your Gustavos, your Brad Attitudes, your Clara Carters, your Bojack, your White Mike, Diego Hill, those that come month to month here in AML in North Carolina. You put a Matt Cardona and EC3, right? I think Cardona's fighting Psycho Boy Fodder, who is managed by Angelina Love, right? Fodder gets these type of matches all the time. Fodder is who Bully Ray, the last time I went to a show about this time last year, Fodder fought Bully Ray. Right? And it's a match that he lost, but Bully Ray gets you into the show to watch. Right? That is how the indies are supposed to work. You don't bring in Mercedes Mone to win your championship so that now you can't use the women's division anymore. Because you do bring up good points. Most of your segment did come off sort of social justice warrior, white knightish, but you do bring up some points. Independent promotions don't use a lot of women's talent. This is something that has bothered me in the 7-8 years that I've been paying attention to independent wrestling. That going to these indie shows that'll have 6 or 7 matches, and some months you don't have a women's match. Now, there's a reason for this. Women wrestling, let's just be honest, doesn't, like, we can be realistic with this, it doesn't draw to the extent that male wrestling does. Right? It's no different than the WNBA, and I'm sure, James, you would agree with me that the WNBA, while the product may be somewhat good, doesn't draw the same amount of money and sponsorship and season tickets as the NBA. Therefore, the WNBA gets viewed less. Has nothing to do with the fact that they're women. Right? Women's wrestling, you're 100% correct in your statistics here. For every 30 males that are on a card, there's probably 1 or 2 females. Now, I think there's a reason for this. Wrestling is still a highly male-driven industry. But I'll say this. This idea that women's wrestling on the indie scene is, like, hidden or forbidden is absolutely insane. I need you to think of, like, who are the biggest women the biggest women on the indie scene within the last 10 years are all signed on major companies. The Chelsea Greens, the Candice LeRae's, Gigi Dolan, or Priscilla Kelly was signed, and she was one of the biggest ones before her contract with AEW. Or, excuse me, with WWE, excuse me. Priscilla Kelly. Right? Within the last, Deonna Purrazzo signed. Jordan Grace is signed. Tessa is signed to TNA. Right? Most of your big stars that are women's wrestlers are signed to one of the 2 big companies. And behind them, there wasn't anything to really fill in the gap. Now, we're seeing some women come to fill in the gap, and there's indie wrestling all over the world. In the female division, there are pretty good talent there. But there's more men. Right? So it's kind of crazy. Like, if there's 100 men for every, let's say in pro wrestling there's probably, I don't know the statistic, let's just say for every 50 men that go into become a pro wrestler, let's say there's 5 women. Right? So there's 10 times as many men in the industry probably than there are females. And it's really hard to put together a scene, especially when you know that women's wrestling doesn't draw as much. And most of these companies don't have women's divisions or women's titles. And so it's really difficult for indie companies. I would as a promoter, if I were to ever start a promotion, I'm going to try to get some women on the card, but I'm not going to, start a women's division. I'll be honest, I probably would. But most don't have a women's division. I know when I first started getting into indie wrestling, the company out here is PWX, and they had the same woman, Savannah Evans, who's now in TNA. They had the same woman every month. If there was a women's match on the card, it was her versus someone like Lindsay Snow. At the time, went by another one was someone that went by the name of Or then Lindsay Snow started becoming a familiar face in PWX, and so you would, who is now your women's NXT champion, JC Jane, went by Avery Taylor at the time. I saw 3 matches with her against Lindsay Snow. Right? And so a lot of these companies put one women's match, if anything, on the card because there's not a lot of women's wrestling to go around between all the promotions. And a lot of the fans come to see the dudes. I'm just going to be honest. Like, that's the reality of the situation. That if these indie companies started running more female wrestling matches, that the numbers would go away. And sure, Mercedes may try to change that, but that's something that her stealing these championships isn't going to fix. That's something much larger than her herself. Right? Now, let's just be honest. Mercedes Mone is a draw, but not every single women's wrestler on the indies has the same drawing power as someone like Mercedes Mone, who has her WWE experience behind her. Right? And so here's the argument. The argument isn't, oh, she shouldn't run the indies. Let her run the indies. That's fine. Yes, it's beneficial for her to run the indies. The issue is that she runs an independent company that no one knows anything about outside of the people in Austria. And then she brings the title on AEW television. No one says anything about it. No one knows anything about it. And then she never defends it. So now the women's division for this, if there isn't any Austrian women's wrestlers that come to this division, they have nothing to fight for. And that is the point. Excuse me. Excuse me. That's the point. The point is she's taking the titles from, instead of actually elevating the company and the division by bringing eyes to the show and allowing them, right? Everyone's like, oh, she elevated Bozilla and Alex Windsor and whoever the hell, I don't know the other girl's name from CMLL that was in the match. No, from what I've heard, I didn't watch the match, but from what I heard, it was one of her worst matches ever. What happens is she starts to think, like I seriously feel the real Mercedes Mone, Mercedes Renato, feels that she's the greatest thing to ever do this in women's wrestling, and she's far off from it. Let's just be honest with you. She's far off from it. There's an ego there. She's put herself inside her own Mount Rushmore of women's pro wrestlers. There's a huge ego issue that goes on with Mercedes Mone. That's the issue that I have. My issue isn't with her going to indie shows and drawing people into those shows. I have no issue with that. My issue is with her saying she's trying to lift the division up by only holding it down because she's got 9 titles and she doesn't defend them all. And then James will keep saying, oh, well, when she does drop it, it's going to be a big story. And he's been saying that for 3 months now, and she never drops the titles. I remember specifically him saying several weeks ago at their last PLE, at the last, shit, was that All In? Yeah, All In. I remember him saying at All In that Mercedes Mone, going into Forbidden Door, was going to have the story was going to be she's going to start dropping these titles and she's going to start having a breakdown, and it's going to happen all at Forbidden Door. No. She added a title that weekend. She didn't lose anything. She started gaining more. Right? And so that's the issue. The issue is that she's holding titles hostage and not actually elevating women's wrestling. She's elevating herself. Right? And Tony Khan allows her to do it, and these other, the guys at Rev Pro and all these other promotions sit back and say nothing. The Poland company, from the belt that she has, I don't know the name of the company, but the one in Poland literally ran an entire event called It's All About the Mone, where she main evented. And the entire show was about her. And that's where she won their title. And she hasn't defended yet. And it's almost been 30 days. Right? Like, you have, like, at what point do we say enough is enough? And guess what? Guess what? I would feel this way if this was Rhea Ripley, Stephanie Vicaria, Io Sky, Lyra Vicaria. If WWE sent any of these wrestlers out, right? Imagine WWE, because let's just be honest, Mercedes Moné is probably the biggest draw in the company for AEW, right? So let's say Rhea Ripley or Liv Morgan went out and started running independent shows. And started winning every independent show. What if Rhea went back home to Australia and started winning Australian titles? And then she went up to Japan and won a Stardom title or a Marigold title. And then came back and maybe started running some in Europe and started winning some of their titles. And right, would these people who are praising Mercedes say, Rhea's doing too much? Yeah, they probably would. And guess what? I would too, because I'm consistent. Mercedes has no reason to win all these titles other than to inflate her already inflated ego. So that's the real issue with Mercedes Moné. James, you missed the point of the argument, and therefore your argument is based on false information. You could tell all the statistics and truths that you want, but until you realize that you're missing the point that we're actually saying. We're not saying she can't wrestle on the indies. Right, and no one's saying that she's not a draw. We're just saying that she shouldn't hold all of these titles because there's no actual purpose behind it. So that's the real Mercedes effect. That's the real Moné effect, right? Moving on to the next story. There's a report that came out that said that the TKO board, the members of the board of TKO, know and hear the fans saying that the prices are too high, and eventually they will drop them once Endeavor makes the money back, which should be by 2026. Now, I want you guys to go back. I don't remember the exact episode it was, but I want you to go back several months ago. Probably first quarter of the year, January, February, March, right? Probably very early in the year, I did an episode where I talked to everyone about how the reason the prices for everything are so high is because Endeavor lost their ass in the merger, and they wanted to earn their money back. And so to do that, they inflated the prices to everything. Right? And I told you that the result of that was going to be fans complaining. For good reason. Now, do I believe that they're going to lower the prices? I don't, actually. Maybe a little, but I don't think it'll be that big of a difference. Because they've recognized that people are willing to pay the prices that as they are right now. Why would they lessen their money? But this actually goes into a question that B-Master asked for a question of the Discord that I'm actually going to bring up now. And that question is, do you think WWE and TKO will ever part ways? He then sent a part 2. Do you think WWE will ever go back to the way they were before selling the TKO? Essentially asking the same thing as part 1. The essential of this question is, will WWE and Endeavor ever split? And I actually think that might be what Endeavor is trying to do. I think what Endeavor did was they bought WWE. I think they thought that they could earn money back, add something to the product or something to the WWE, and I think eventually they will sell. When? I have no idea. I think what Endeavor saw was a product at its height in the Bloodline era, with Roman Reigns and very, very high attention on the product, higher than it's ever been in a while. And they saw the product that had a lot of potential for profit, and they bought the company thinking they would earn it back quickly and be able to turn a quick profit. And what has happened was that as the Bloodline story ends, less interest in the product happens. You have booking that's bad. And people start being less interested in the product. Now you have to find a way to make up this $9 billion you spent on the company. I would think eventually, I'm giving it 10 years. Within the next 10 years, I think Endeavor sells WWE. I think they do. Because that's what a lot of these companies do, these corporations do, is they buy companies to get as much profit out of it as they can, and then they'll sell it. I think they can sell it a lot more than what the $9 billion they bought it for in 10 years. I think that'll happen, 100%. But that does remain to be seen, right? And so this is just a crazy report. Right? But it's also one of those things where, like, well, if you know we're complaining about the prices, like, why not act now? And because I think by the time that they get the money back, that they're in the hole, they're probably, like, the danger you have with keeping the prices as high as they are is you're essentially throwing away your audience, right? And people are not going to want to continue to participate in watching the show when the product seems like it's simply just about money, right? So 2026 can't come fast enough. Maybe we'll see a change in how the product is run once they start making a profit. Next thing that we're going to discuss here, Tony Khan at the AEW Forbidden Door media scrum was asked a direct question about the Max numbers and asking if they're realistic. 500,000 people watch on Max. And basically his response said, I don't know the numbers. And here's the question that I have. Tony Khan, you're the owner of this company who signed a contract to air your product on a particular product on a particular streaming app. And you don't know the numbers? You don't know how well your product is performing? Like in the response, again, James is like the only AEW guy in our Discord right now. So he's the guy I have to bring up whenever he defends it. Oh, well, Max doesn't make the numbers public. Okay, but we're not asking them to make the numbers public. You can keep it in private with Tony Khan and give Tony Khan his numbers so that he knows how his product's doing. Tony knows the numbers. Come on now. Tony can continue to lie and say he doesn't know the numbers. All this answer told me was one of two things. Either A, Tony Khan is more incompetent than I thought he was. Or two, the numbers aren't what the report said and he can't expose that. Those are the only two options to me. Right? Second thing about AEW coming out of this weekend is that they continue to over-police streaming. Now, they fixed the situation today, but Con Man had his Facebook and Instagram shut down because of posting his clips, reacting to the show. They did fix it, so good on them. But AEW's known for this, to continually, give out warnings and strikes and get stuff shut down. So hopefully they do fix it. I don't really have a lot to say about it now that they have fixed it. At least they're taking corrective action, but it should be something that isn't done in the first place. I know that there's anti-piracy laws and stuff like that, but I think that's honestly, whether or not you enforce that should be on the company, and I don't see an issue with it because it's getting people to watch your product that probably wouldn't watch your product. That's how I look at it, right? So now we're going to talk about Heatwave. And Heatwave was a decent show. I'm not going to sit here and say it was the greatest, but it was a really, really good show. You start with Lola Vice winning, which was a good match. Very good match. Lola Vice winning is a good result. She's more than likely going to win that title from JC Jane, which is great. Dark State beating Hank and Tank was an interesting choice to me. I don't dislike it, but I'm questioning how this is going to end up. Biggest question is, are we going to get the Freebird rule? Where any of the four can defend the belts? I said this, I think, on Friday, that this tag division is getting pretty weak right now. So I hope to spark something in the tag division, right? I was correct in predicting Ash by Elegance winning this match. I was a little upset that a TNA wrestler didn't come and challenge her for it. But Ash by Elegance is the champion, which is great. Blake Monroe beats Jordan Grace in a really good match. Really, really good match. Better than I thought it would be. Match 5 here is probably the one I want to talk about the most. Let's talk about Oba and Javon first. Really good match. I know some people are throwing it in like match of the year candidacy. I don't think I can do that. I think I'm already locked on what my match of the year is, and I'm not coming off of this match. And so every other match hasn't compared to that to me. But this was a really, really good match. But let's go back to Chelsea and Ethan versus Tyra and Tavion. Because this is the match that I really had the biggest problem with. For two reasons. First was the entire story shouldn't have been a thing. Right? So Tavion breaks free of the NQCC and immediately should have gone into a super babyface feud, and Ethan Page would have been a great feud to have him against. And you didn't have to turn this into, he's Captain America versus the evil foreigner, especially since Canada really isn't an enemy of ours, right? But secondly, involving Chelsea Green and involving Tyra is extremely green and should not be on an NXT ring right now. Keep her on Evolve, keep her in the PC, keep her training, and with time and repetition, she'll get better. But she wasn't ready for this scene, and then having her lose to Chelsea Green does nothing for her. Right? Having Chelsea and Ethan win this match does nothing for Tavion and does nothing for Tyra. And so this whole thing just didn't make sense to me. Right? So yeah, that's my major issue with the card and with the show for Heatwave. Other than that, I'd give it like a B+ rating overall with all the matches. Very good. The last thing that I want to talk about before we get into questions from Discord is the one thing that I did see from Monday Night Raw, because I didn't watch it. I'm not interested in the show. And I'm not even interested anymore in Clash at Paris because of this thing that happened. And that is Stephanie Vaquer was removed from the card. And that she's going to get some unnamed opponent at some later date. Probably going to be Slamapalooza, right? And some big debut or something like that. Again, not an issue that I have. Though there was an easy fix for this. And I already went over that. Triple threat, Stephanie, Io, Rhea, determine the winner and the new champion, have it be Stephanie, and then you can move on going forward. But this was literally the only match on the card that I was at any one point interested in. And so it's really going to be hard for me to even consider watching this card now on Sunday. I'm going to predict them on Friday, but I don't know if I'm watching the show. I'm just going to be honest with you. Because there's really nothing on that. I looked at that card, and it's hot trash, in my opinion. I'm just going to be honest. One of the weakest cards I've ever seen in quite a while, in my humble opinion. And I could be wrong. You can disagree with me on that. But I'm not a big fan of this card. And so taking Stephanie off the card really keeps me from wanting to watch it. All right, so let's read these questions from the Discord. So we talked about B-Masters, TKO question. James asked a question that I've kind of already answered in the past, but we'll answer again. Now the WWE is working with ESPN. Do you think they will build them a place in Disney World? No. I said this when the deal broke and was announced. You'll get them on TV, on shows like with Stephen A. and these podcasts and Sports Center and stuff like that. But I don't think they're going to cross over into the we're going to build you theme parks and put your wrestlers in our movies and cartoons. I don't think they get over to the Disney Plus area of Disney. I think they're on ESPN. They're on the sports side of the company, right? I don't think they'll cross over to getting theme parks and stuff like that. I don't think that's going to happen. So Kara asked one question and B-Master asked another. So let's do B-Masters first. He said, you win the lottery. What are you doing with the money? Now the question is how much money are we talking about? Because that depends on that determines what I actually do in full. So we're going to assume like I have a rule: the payout for the lottery has to be $500 million or more for me to play. So let's assume that I won the lottery and it was a $500 million lottery ticket, right? And I won. In the state that I'm in, I'm probably at that point after taxes and everything going to receive about $300 million. And with that money, be straight up honest with you, the first thing is charity. I believe in the idea of giving back, especially. So my viewpoint on money is this. Money is given to you to steward and to give away, right? And to be used smartly, but to be used when you have my worldview. I'm in the process of I'm kingdom building, not my kingdom, right? We can get into the religious aspect behind it, but I'm talking like giving to my church or giving. Like I'm not even big on giving to churches necessarily, but giving to charities that share my worldview on how I want things done in the world, right? And a lot of them, those would be religious organizations. Giving the money back to the one who gave it to me, which if God would have blessed me with $300 million, then, you know, and I'm not we're gonna do 10% and that's it. It probably would be a grand amount, like 25% of what I win would probably go to some sort of charitable organization, right? Because I don't need all that money, right? With the rest of the money, I'm paying my bills off. I'm paying my mom's bills off. My immediate family will be set, right? All their debt paid, all the student loans, all of that stuff paid. And then we could start talking about, you know, finding land and investing in land and building, you know, them houses and you know, I'm the type of person who has thought about, you know, running to the middle of nowhere and building a compound and just living off the land and farming and stuff like that, while at the same time I would like to 100%, this is where it comes into Kara's question, would be starting a business. Because, right, I would start my own business in one way, shape, or form, whether it's continuing in the storage industry, but just owning my own company, or, you know, continuing this podcasting business and actually making it a business that can produce money, or something along those lines. Probably a lot of different passive income streams where I don't necessarily have to work as much, but it's still providing me income, right? And so that's where I want to jump into Kara's question. Kara's question is you're opening a business with our Real Wrestling Community Discord members in it. What kind of business is it? Who's working what positions? And what is the money like? right? Now, I took that as what is the money as being, what are we getting paid, right? So, with that being said, let me find, I had this all planned out, and I didn't title it, so now I got to find it in my notes app. There it is. All right. So I've always wanted to get into the restaurant business. Ever since I started working and I got into restaurant work, I've always wanted to get into the restaurant business, right? And so I came in here and I said, and be honest, I went to ChatGTP and I said, here's the prompt that was asked of me. I'm going to give you the members of the Discord, describe them a little bit, and then you can fill this out for me, right? Now, I'll be honest with you. Outside of James and Cody, I don't know any of them personally. But I sort of have guessed on some personality traits, right? So, the business would be a restaurant, 100%. The business would be a restaurant. And this came up with a really, really cool name. They called it Deep Dish, right? A neighborhood-style restaurant that blends comfort food with bold flavors. Think a mix of a diner with some southern influence, with a fun and welcoming vibe. It's like you're eating at a friend's house, but the food actually slaps, right? So with that, I have based on these personalities. So let me tell you the ones in the Discord who I have put in here, right? So it's me, of course, Kara, who asked the questions in this. I got B-Master, I got James, I got Cody, I got Wavy D. Member who doesn't get mentioned enough, but is still a day one, so salute to you. Starry Nights in here. And this Highlanders in here. The Witters is in here, right? And so, with that, we have a setup for how we're going to run this, positionally. So, of course, I'm the owner of the company. I'm the owner. And so with that, there comes certain responsibilities with that as being the owner, right? But I need a general manager. And that general manager's honestly, he's going to be Kara. Kara's going to be the GM. She's going to run my operation for me. She was, right, with me overseeing it, right? Of course, like, she still has to answer to me, right? Just put her in her place. Like, she's not the overlord of the restaurant. WETOODEEP still is that, right? But she's going to run most of this operation, scheduling, disciplining the staff, handling customer complaints, right? Of course, there's me. I'm going to be the owner. I'm going to be working the chef, the behind the counter, in the kitchen, right? Overseeing the kitchen, the business side, managing the financials, interviewing for other potential employees that could join the deal, right? Jumps on the line in the kitchen when needed. But I'm really, there to keep the restaurant running. Right, so then we get to my kitchen crew. And the cool thing about this is I have at least two people that I know of that I know have worked restaurants before, and that's Wavy D and that's B-Master. Right, so Wavy D is going to be what I call, like, the head chef. Right, And, he thinks outside the box, so I'm going to give him the ability, to have a manager special type menu on a specific day of the week where he comes out of the box. He thinks outside of the box like he does, offers specials to the customers, right? But sometimes that creativity, is a little bit chaotic, and we know that. We know AVD, so that's where Kara will step in and rein in that chaos. Like she's gonna have to step in and be like, nah, bruh, we're not serving fried Twinkies stuffed with chili this week, because we ain't doing that, right? My grill master, right? Now in my experience, the old heads in the kitchen are always the best to work with. So B master is gonna be the grill master, right? Old school, reliable, consistent, can run the grill with a passion, and he runs it like a champ, right? He's gonna keep the standards of the kitchen strong. Beside him, my prep cook, and we're gonna do barbecue because we're in the South. So my pit master is gonna be Highlander, right? Southern roots, handling the smoking of meats. Right, then my dude Witters, he's gonna be out there on the line as well. He's also pretty good at throwing around some ideas. He's put some creative questions in question for the Discord over the years, so he'll also float around and help and throws in suggestions to Wavy D. Right. So now this is where the front of the house comes in. Right. So. My lead server, right? I don't know much about her. I don't know much about Starry Night, but she a real one. She's gonna be the lead server, right? Chill, welcoming, keeps the vibe light. That perfect first impression, right? We got my dude Cody marinara sauce, keeping it saucy as the workhorse up front. Right, the hard worker that keeps the diner room running smoothly, jumps in wherever needed, whether it's expediting food, running plates, cleaning tables, helping out the servers, right? Just a hard worker, right? And I've actually worked with Cody before on a job. He's a hard worker, right? So then we got Junkyard James. He's a server. It's about the only place in the restaurant he could work, right? And he knows this menu inside and out. Sometimes he can over-explain things, Well, technically, our mac and cheese uses a bechamel sauce. He means well. He makes the customers laugh. But Kara's going to have to tell him to shut up sometimes. And she's going to put him in his place. And I'm going to sit there and allow it to happen. Right? Now, the menu concept, before we can get into the payments, I know that's what y'all looking for, right? Some core staples, burgers, wings, barbecue, sandwiches, mac and cheese, right? Smoked meats, cornbread, fried chicken, collard greens, right? Wavy D and Witters can throw in some secret menu stuff, right? Right? And then we'll, of course, got to have our diner type desserts, fried Oreos, bread pudding, banana pudding, pies, cakes, cookies, all of it. To end the meal the nice way, right? So now let's talk about the money. Here comes the money, right? And so what's going to happen is I am the person who I believe in taking care of your employees, right? And so we're going to take care of our employees by first with my general manager, Kara. She going to make $80,000 a year. She going to make $80,000 a year. Way above industry standard, as most restaurant GMs make around 50 to 65. She going to make $80,000 a year. Right? Makes her a role, not a job, but a career. And it lets people know, bruh, this is the place to work, right? Now, when it comes to comes to my money, I'm not salaried. I draw out based on profit sharing, right? So just for that, for the kitchen. Oh no, I'm kidding. Here's what's gonna happen, right? I'm gonna run a European style restaurant service, right? Kara gonna make 80 grand a year. It's about 35-50 an hour equivalent, right? Everyone else, the kitchen and the front of house, the kitchen and the servers, right, are gonna make 20 an hour, right? No tip, because being European, and so for those who don't know, they don't tip in Europe. They actually pay their workers, so there won't be any tips. But you're gonna make 20 an hour. That's all the other staff. Flat rate, everyone makes 20 an hour, right? Everyone. James, Cody, Starry Night, Witters, Highlander, Beemaster, Wavy, 20 an hour. Right? This means that all staff is equal the same. There's no favoritism, right? So you could offer some benefits like, yo, you gonna eat. This was one of the things when I was manager for Zaxby's. We still had to charge employees to eat. It was a 50% discount, and there were some employees on the weeks we didn't get paid where they couldn't eat. And I'm like, bruh, just let me swipe this card real quick. Like, you're not gonna go hungry working for me, right? Free meals for your shifts, health care coverage, PTO, right? Maybe like a nightly, crew hangout, like monthly, where we just get together and hang out as a crew and not work, right? Shut the restaurant down, right? Potentially a profit sharing bonus. Specifically, the GM would definitely get this, hey, you get 5% of the profits that we make at the end of the year, right? Right? Maybe, hey, send me menu ideas. If your idea is a boom and it bangs and it starts doing sales, right, bro, you're going to get a bonus for that shit, right? Respect your workers, and that's the way that I live and I feel the business world should be. You should respect your workers, and they'll respect your customers, and that'll keep your business running, right? Now, right, that's a crazy model to run that I'm going to do, right? But it's what I genuinely believe with that question there. All right, so that's the questions in the Discord. We're going to end this segment, or this episode, with Thirsty Tuesday. And the 4 matchups this week are Charli D'Amelio versus Amber Rose, Ariana Grande versus Sabrina Carpenter, Monica Bellucci versus Gal Gadot, and Alex Morgan versus Naomi Osaka. Some tough matchups this week for this bracket. That is the Slapping Me Wrestling Podcast. Until the next time, I'm WETOODEEP. I'll see you guys on Friday, and I hope you enjoyed.
So hit that subscribe, come along for the ride. AEW, WE, we're always on side. From fantasy booking to baddies that slay. Slapping me wrestling every Tuesday.